Hi, and welcome to the Sibme Coach Replay Show. I am Cory Camp, your host. This show is all about instructional coaching, where we talk with an instructional coach who talks with us a little bit about some instructional topics, some coach moves, some teacher moves that we can begin implementing in our practice right away. So today I'm super excited. I have Stephanie Affinito with us. Stephanie is one of our elite team members on our virtual coaching team. And in addition to coaching for Sibme, she's also a literacy teacher educator and a literacy coach in upstate New York. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Cory. So glad to be here today.
Yeah, me too. I know we did a webinar last year together, and we always have tons of fun when we work together. So I'm excited for today's episode. Today we're going to talk about instructional routines, which is great for the start of the year. And specifically, we're going to be talking about making every minute matter. So Stephanie, what do we talk about? What do we mean when we talk about making every minute matter?
Right. Well, Cory, teachers are some of the busiest people that I know. They are cramming in as much as they possibly can into the instructional day, but they're often working against fragmented schedules, certain mandates, planned interruptions, unplanned interruptions, all things typically beyond a teacher's control. So making the most of our instructional minutes within our control, within our classroom during the day, helps us get the most out of our instruction.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And one of the first big ahas that I had as a teacher, you know, you lesson plan and you think, where is the time going? No matter how much I minimize this plan and these activities, I still run out of time. And
Yes.
For me, it was taking data on the transitions. And I realized that I wasn't starting class right away, and we were, of course, wrapping up just a few minutes early, as middle schoolers typically do. So this is going to be a great strategy today that you're going to share. So we're going to look at a video and break down a little bit of this with a 5th grade classroom that we have here. And I'm going to share my screen here in a moment, but just to give some context, this is, again, a 5th grade classroom. And the teacher here is working on transitioning to independent work, which is what we're going to see in the video. What else are we looking for as we watch this video, Stephanie?
Well, this video is a really great example of what's often referred to as taking a status of the class. And in the status of the class routine, the teacher is trying to make the most of the independent work time that the students have by checking in at the very beginning and asking students to share what their goals are for that time, or whatever their task is they're going to complete, or the activity that they're going to work on. So typically in status of the class, the teacher will call out a student's name, and the student will quickly reply with whatever task they're working on or whatever goal they've set for themselves. This way, it helps focus students' attention. They know what they're working on as soon as they're able to go to that work time. And it helps a teacher keep track of how productive students are during that time as well. And this video showcases those couple of minutes in the beginning of work time where the teacher's trying status of the class.
Yeah, I love it. So this is going to be a good strategy. So let's take a look then. We'll watch the first 45 minutes or so, and then we're going to break down a few of these key moments.
Okay.
Real quick, since we had a fire drill, we're really limited on our time, so we have to really hustle through this. What paragraph are you on, or where are you at? Or what's your goal for today? To finish typing. Great. And what's your goal? Is it finished? Right? Have you written all of it? Are you ready to type? So say typing. To begin typing. So you need to get up right now and get a computer. Then, how about you? Last paragraph. Is absent.
Paragraph 2. My profile was missing.
Awesome. You can grab another one. Just get another one. Not your name.
All right. So Stephanie, where can you kind of direct us and break this strategy down for us?
Well, if we start right at the very beginning, if you notice, the teacher was very clear in that, as all teachers know, our time is limited. You add that fire drill into the mix and it makes our time even more precious. So she's really communicating that our work time matters and how we engage in that work time matters. And by asking students to reflect on what their goals are or what they plan to complete, it's helping them focus that work time. And so she notes that for the students right from the get-go.
Yeah, definitely. And we hear her say that, like, let's set she set the urgency for the class and said, we're going to do this really quickly. We've already lost some time. So I think that's a great way to kind of get everyone going. I want to play back this clip here after that first 13 seconds where you kind of talk a little bit about scaffolding, and then we'll replay that for our audience and take a look at it again.
To finish typing. Great. And what's your goal? Is it finished? Right? Have you written all of it? Are you ready to type? So say typing. To begin typing. So you need to get up right now and get a computer. And how about you?
All right.
Right. That's an important part right there. So the teacher, as always, is modeling and scaffolding the kinds of behaviors she'd like to see and the kinds of proactive thinking that she's hoping to foster in students as well. So as she calls the student's name, the student gives a response, and she's modeling how to do that very quickly. So say typing, right? This 1 or 2 word phrase to help clue her into what their goals are. And then right after that, she's showing, if your goal is typing, then this is what you do next. And so by creating this routine where students are in the habit of thinking, what am I going to do? And therefore, what do I need to get started quickly? She's modeling those habits that will help us make the most of our work time in the classroom.
Yeah, definitely. And then kind of as we wrapped up around that 46 second mark, and you've got a comment here praising her on her multitasking skills, but we do see the students start to get a little bit antsy, as you said here. They're starting, you can hear a little bit more noise in the classroom. They're starting some side conversations. So what would you say there for that teacher in regards to using this strategy and still kind of keeping everybody with her?
Right. And that buzzing that we start to hear, buzzing can be productive buzzing, right? So it can be students who have already shared their status of their work time getting ready. But in some cases, the time that it took to touch base with each student and to model what to do next gives other students an opportunity to get off task as they wait for their turn. So one of the things that I might suggest to the teacher is to have an anchor chart of sorts somewhere in the room with the options that are typically available during work time. So if this is a writing class, it might have the steps of the writing process listed that students would be working on. If this was a reading workshop, it might be options like independent reading or meeting with your book group or working on a reading response. Whatever content that you are teaching, you can create an anchor chart with the typical possibilities for this work time. And that way, when you call the student's name, they know to use one of those phrases. That cuts it down a little bit. The teacher can still model what to do next, but over time, this will help this status of the class to be a little bit faster. As another option, you can use that anchor chart as an interactive tool for the status of the class. So some teachers like to use clothespins or sticky notes that have been labeled with their student's name, and they give students 1 minute to go up to that anchor chart and move their clothespin to the appropriate goal that they're working on, or move their sticky note with their name on it to an appropriate goal as well. And that way, it takes the status of the class from calling on students one by one to giving them that minute to get up, move, note what their goal is, and then head back to whatever task they need to complete or whatever materials they need to gather to get started.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you mentioned that second option, because something I was going to say with this idea of the anchor chart, I actually had that in my classroom years ago. It was the writing process. I had all my class periods, everything was color coded in my classroom, because that's the way I organized lots of things.
I get it.
Right? Yeah. So every class period had their own color. So I purchased on Amazon these magnetic clips that matched the color, and then students' names, I wrote them on there with a Sharpie. And eventually I labeled them because the Sharpie rubs off with sweaty 7th grade fingers. But I had that, and it was amazing for me that I could instantly look up and see within the process of a writing towards whatever product we were working towards. I could see exactly where everybody in each of my classes was. Mine was on a board, so it was on my whiteboard with that magnetic piece. I had a board over here on the side of my classroom. I never put anything really there. It wasn't in a great location for any type of direct instruction. So I just turned that board into that big anchor chart, and it was part of the walking in process. As they came in and grabbed their materials and picked up their graded papers, they would go, if they hadn't already moved where they needed to be from the previous day. And then I also gave another opportunity when we transitioned from our reading workshop to our writers workshop to go up there and update where they are. And what I found was great about that was students were able to see where they were in their process in comparison with others. That way they could say, man, I'm like way behind on this. It kind of gives them something to gauge, I'm way ahead. I've got some time to slow down and revisit and revise. And then I would also, for those outliers, know who I needed to pull for student conferencing and any support. So I love that. Because I was going to ask you, do you have to do this verbally and vocally with your students, or could it be something that's just kind of more visual and tactile?
Right. Absolutely. And as one last option I've tried with some teachers is rather having that anchor chart, for some classrooms where actually getting up to the anchor chart might make you lose more instructional time than gain it. Teachers simply had students take out a sticky note, write their goal on the sticky note, and put it in the top corner of their desk. And that way the teacher could roam around the room for a minute, look at everyone's goals and take notes, rather than have them call out or even get up and move around, depending on the wiggliness in the room.
Well, I love that idea, because that's why it was part of my coming in process as I transitioned into the classroom, because it can take some time, but that's a great strategy as well, to be able to just have that on the corner of the desk, and then they can change it as they go. And just goal setting in general, it's a great organizational skill for our students, great executive functioning support. So all right, Stephanie, well, thanks so much for sharing this with us. Anything else that you want to share with our audience? How do we see video playing a continuing role for this teacher as she works on transition strategies?
Right. Well, I think if we were to continue with this, it's a great opportunity to record multiple attempts of our status of the class to see how little tweaks we make could help. So it might be that we look at our next video and see how long it took us to get through that status of the class versus our earlier attempts, to see if we're keeping them brief and to the point. We could also look at how it helps maximize students' work time. So does setting the goal actually help them stay more productive during that time and keep the video running through the whole session? And it just helps us look at the kinds of work that they're doing as well. Are the goals that students consistently setting the same goals? Are they getting stuck? As you mentioned, are they moving forward in the process? So it might start out being a focus on minutes, but very quickly can move into a deeper discussion on instruction and learning.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's really, really great. And And again, I love using video as that, let's use it to collect the data, right? Let's use it to time how long this takes. And as we get more efficient with it, it's taking less of our time so we can focus more on digging into the instruction and learning and really just setting those goals. So thanks so much again, Stephanie, for joining us. It's been fun. So tune in next week, y'all, for another episode of the Sibme Coach Replay Show.